Welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday night here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Week 1 of the college football season has come and gone. The FAU Owls were in action. All the big teams in Florida were in action this week. FAU lost Michigan State 16-10. We were up there in East Lansing. I was thinking Ann Arbor. I was about to say it, but I said East Lansing, got the right one out. FAU, it was a tough game offensively to start that one. We'll get into that in the second half of the first half here. But I'm joined alongside my co-host, as usual, Christian Frosha, and we are joined by a special guest tonight, Army Insider with the creative department and also covering high school football for New Era Prep with Christian over there, Dan Calvelli. Dan, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. Happy to have you on here talking some Army, some Service Academy. Christian, how you doing, man? It's been a week since I've seen you, so I guess I got to check on you.
I've been having a pretty good week. I don't know about you. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but yeah, just coming out of having a full class load today, alumni activities. I know you're not privy to that anymore, Rob. But
Are you calling me Unk? Are you calling me an Unk right now?
You've been Unk. You are retirement home at this point.
You hit the status.
Then we got a little Shula Bowl preview of FAU FIU women's volleyball. Absolute B2A from the Lady Owls tonight. Sweep action. Covered that myself and Garen. Great evening of volleyball. Really good day. What about you, Rob? How was your day?
I had a good day. Any day I get to talk to Tom Herman is a good one. The FAU press conferences are nice and small. It's just me and Tom. And today there's actually the student media is back in full force, so it was good to see all the guys from the newspaper and the radio. And so FAU will have a good media contingent at home this weekend versus Army. Should have a good fan crowd output as well. Still. I don't know. I don't know how to calculate Ticketmaster. Some people are telling me that FAU may have not released all of the tickets yet on Ticketmaster. We shall see. But still, I'd expect 20,000 plus fans at a minimum, hopefully 25 plus in the building for the home opener. It's going to be hot, though. It's going to be really hot, 12 noon game. Dan, how do those Army boys like the heat? With the coming down from West Point, New York, is going to be any? You think it'll be any adjustment for the weather?
Definitely going to be something to expect. This is probably the most south, other than UTSA, that they'll go this year. And honestly, I think the first time in a while they've actually been down to Florida for a game.
Yeah, I feel like, that's the one thing with them joining the AAC is they're the most northern team. So when other than playing Temple, they're going to be traveling a pretty decent bit, but looked good in their first game since joining the AAC. Although it was against Lehigh, they held Lehigh. I think it was to 3 first downs in I think it was either the first half or the whole game. I saw it briefly. I don't remember. Don't think it was the whole game. They didn't play that bad. But Army was running that triple option in full force. What was the vibe like? You were there heavily over the summer. What was it like them getting to work, and it was their first kind of season in the AAC? Were they locked in, or was it any different type of sense in that building?
I mean, being at practice for like the first week and a half when I was up there, it was just kind of business as usual, getting the freshmen adjusted, trying to see, there were some guys who were in between the first and second team. They were really weeding out who they really wanted for opening week. And probably some of the guys that didn't get a lot of action this past weekend at Lehigh, we'll probably see them in Boca this weekend. It just really depends on what the offense, especially what Coach Monken is going to be feeling.
That for them to have the ability to kind of rotate is crazy to me. I feel like Army would be down bad in terms of in depth, especially in the. At least in terms of, I never hope the Army is down bad in terms of depth, but in terms of football, I feel like it'd be kind of hard for them to pull in scholarship guys, especially that can contribute. But they looked good versus Lehigh in week 1, and so. they kind of made that shift back to that triple option. Are you a fan of that triple offense? And you think, or that triple option offense? And do you think they can kind of make some noise in the AAC with it?
Yeah, man, that like the flex bone is just a really interesting, such an interesting playbook. You don't really know what you're gonna get out of it. You could either be taking it to the house like 70 yards on a triple option, or you're getting stuff behind the line. Kind of just depends on what you're running. You could even get some fullback action up there for a little 1 yard push. It just kind of depends on what the defense of the other team looks like. Clearly, Lehigh was not ready for it, but after seeing what FAU was able to do against Michigan State, I feel like it's definitely going to be a battle in the trenches this weekend.
Yeah, that was with FAU. They were able to really limit the run game, both with Childs as a quarterback and them just typically running the ball. So with the triple option, there'll be a little bit more for them to kind of keep their heads up. But so with Army kind of, I mean, it's their service academy. So how is the depth around the team? Or do they have like depth, or is it kind of forced depth where the guys who are seeing the field maybe aren't necessarily, scholarship guys, but they're guys who are going to be in the Army?
So basically, every guy on the football team from freshman to senior is a scholarship player. But because of how many people come into West Point, they have a bit more leverage on how many people they can roster. When I was up there, at the practices, they gave me a roster sheet, and you had enough freshmen on the roster to field an entirely separate team.
That's interesting. So because that's kind of like the Dabo Sweeney approach, I guess, bringing in all the freshmen. And I mean, and they make fun of Dabo for doing it, but the Army has to do it. So that's what kind of has me nervous going into this game, is the fact that they have freshmen who can come in and contribute, and they're all going to be sound guys. They're not bringing in freshmen who are going to come in here and commit penalties. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of the service academy way, but are they kind of, is Army's offense kind of like a well-oiled machine? Do they not, are there any mistakes that they kind of make, or is it really kind of hard to get them out of their motion?
You can definitely say they're a well-oiled machine, because from when you're a freshman up to like your junior and senior year, when you're finally getting playing time, you are learning the same plays, the same motions. Everything is just balanced as it could possibly get. So I would say it is a well-oiled machine, although sometimes in practice you make mistakes, but that is what really practice is all about. If there are any mistakes, you get them flattened out before the game. But going back to what you said about the freshmen, like possibly getting playing time, I would say, at the most, maybe one or two are going to actually see the field. Most of the guys that make the main game time roster that are dressing out, the youngest are probably going to go as sophomores, but most of the guys that step onto the field for solid playing time are juniors and seniors.
Gotcha. And with the quarterback, Bryson Daly, what do you know about him and his game at all? He had that big game with his legs against Lehigh, but is he kind of, do they kind of, does he have that ability to throw it all, or is he really just a typical runner?
Yeah, so Bryson's honestly the whole package you get a quarterback. If you need him to run, he'll run. If you need him to air it out, unfortunately, Army doesn't pass that often, so you don't get to see his arm. But during practice, there were a couple of times where they're like, hey, just go deep. Let's see what happens. And he can definitely get it out into deep territory. So I think, if he was at a different college, we'd be seeing more of his arm. Especially even with the backup, Dwayne Coleman, it's the same thing. He can run. He's very fast, but he also has a arm to go deep.
Do they rotate at all with the quarterbacks, or is it really just, is it daily? Because I saw that the backup Dwayne got in the game, but I didn't get to see the whole game. So did he just come in blowout time, or do they rotate at all?
Yeah. So at practice, when I was there, at least Bryson got most of the first team reps, and then they would switch into Coleman for first team reps, and then they would bring out the second team, which would usually be Helums and one of the freshmen, Brandon Knight. So
Yeah, that's kind of sounds like the FAU situation with Ty Starks a little bit. How he kind of got reps with the first team, and we didn't see him too much in that first game. But if they need him, at least they have those reps with the first team. But I'm looking outside of Daly. Noah Short had the best day rushing the ball. He had 8 carries for 83 yards in that last one. What is he? Is he? I see 6 foot 182. Doesn't really have that power back build. Is he more speed, or because I feel like in the triple option you kind of need a little bit of both power and speed?
fun fact: Noah Short is actually a wide receiver, but
Oh,
apparently they
really?
did move him to. Apparently they did move him to running back for this season. I was a little surprised by that because at practice he was usually taking receiver one. Maybe it was just a game plan against Lehigh, but you know, for most of his Army career, he's been the receiver one. So
Yeah, that's it. That is interesting, and I feel like they moved away from the triple option, and then I guess they've made the shift back. So I guess he kind of just floated around and kept his job. I see. Yeah, I guess their starting running back is Kanye Udo. He's got a little more weight on him. He's 6 foot 215. He's got that power back build to him. But if they, I mean, the ability to rotate in that triple threat, that's kind of dangerous. I mean, what in terms of the running backs, do they rotate a lot in that sense, or is it more just going to be, I guess, Udo in the backfield?
So we're kind of looking at now with Noah Short officially being rostered as a running back, according to ESPN at least. We're really going to be seeing, I feel like personally, the reps being split between Noah Short and Tyrell Robinson, who had a huge year with Army last year. But you also do have Kanye as the power back who really was being used more in the fullback slot last year.
Gotcha.
But seeing it at practice, Kanye did get some solid running back one rep. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they try multiple different paths this weekend with FAU's defense.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that they're going to need to rotate, especially with the heat being a factor. They're going to need to keep those guys fresh. But looking at the defensive side of the ball, it looked like leading tackler from this week was Caleb Fortner, linebacker. I feel like Army's always had some solid linebackers, a few pros, if I remember correctly. What's the strength of the Army defense, and what's somewhere on that defense that FAU may have an advantage?
For the Army defense at least, yes, Fortner is a great linebacker, but Army's greatest strength is going to be the line. You have the senior duo of Kyle Lewis and Trey Sophia, who were just honestly terrorizing the offensive line during camps. And honestly, depending on how FAU's offensive line decides to come out this weekend, it can either be a living nightmare for Fancher or it could be a good weekend. But this weekend is going to depend a lot on how the boys in the trenches do.
So they've got some good edge rushers, which FAU's off exterior tackles didn't have a good week against Michigan State, but Michigan State also has some next level edge rushers as well. So you hit it on the head. I mean, this week it's kind of do or die for those tackles. I mean, if they can't put it together this week, it's going to get down a dark path as the season goes on. So, Dan, I'm curious. So, what do you think Army needs to do to kind of come into this game and maybe upset the Owls, considering they're 3.5-point dogs currently? I thought it could be closer than that, but what do you think Army's got to do to come in here and win this one?
I think from an offensive standpoint, just be patient. Flexbone's a very interesting offense to run, and it's really just going to depend on the FAU defensive scheme, what they got planned for the game. It can either go really well or really bad.
Gotcha.
But on the defensive side, it's really the defensive line. The linebackers have to get their job done, shut the run game down for FAU, or pressure the quarterback into making mistakes. Because honestly, Army does have good defensive backs, but it's been a bit of an interesting offseason to say the least. But their main thing in the secondary for FAU, at least, if I'm a quarterback for FAU, I'm not throwing it in the direction of Max DiDomenico great safety. He will find the ball, and he'll most likely be picking people off.
We shall see. Dan, thank you for taking some time to hop in here with us. I know it's a busy night for you, so we'll let you get back to it. But yeah, thank you once again, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Appreciate it, guys.
Alrighty, have a good one. Christian, man, thanks for bearing with that. Yeah, so what do you based off what Dan had to say, what are you thinking about Army?
All right, so I know he just brought in the expert analysis, but I'm gonna bring in the real analysis. I loaded up NCAA 25 this morning to really simulate what was going to happen in tonight's game, and all I'm about to say is I almost put my controller in orbit having to deal with this triple option. I hate playing against the service academies in NCAA 25. Excuse me, guys. But absolute nightmare to game plan against. For me, a casual gamer, best gamer on this stream, but that's besides the point. But I'm not worried. I think FAU is going to be able to control the game the way that they always do. I'd like to see a little more offensively. I think we'll be able to open up the playbook a little more. I don't think it's going to be as vanilla as it was throughout the scrimmages and then the first game. I'd like to really see a little bit more testing almost. This Army's a good team to do it against because I like our receivers over their corners. I think that's a solid matchup that anybody in our core is going to win. So I think if we're able to test a couple times, maybe not some Hail Mary throws where Fancher's having to launch at 75 yards, but I think being able to test out that Air Force a little, see if they've got any air control. That's not really the Army specialty, but I think that we'll be able to be successful with that. And then everybody knows by having a lethal passing attack, that opens up the opportunity for a mobile quarterback like Fancher. We saw Fancher running around a lot. Cam, please slide. Please slide, bro.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to give a speech at a funeral. Please slide. Please. Or please, let's chin straps. Let's buckle them a little tighter because every two plays, his dome was on the floor. But
yeah, that was that. I mean, Tom Herman described it as prison ball. I mean, that we'll dive back into to Michigan State a little bit. Yeah, I mean that first half. I mean, really the whole game. Cam was getting hit pretty badly. I mean, he's gonna take some hits. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, he's a mobile quarterback. That's how he plays. He's an aggressive runner. I mean, we talked about this. I compared him to Josh Allen, I think, on here. And after game one, I caught that's pretty Josh Allen-esque, the way he's running. And so, people were calling me crazy, but I was like, no, I mean, I think he's a little wild with the way he runs. But he picked up 10 first downs with his legs. I mean, that's pretty productive. I mean, he wasn't just running around back here in the backfield getting hit. I mean, he was sometimes, but really for the most part, it was productive running. I mean, you take away the sacks that he had during that game, he has 18 carries for 96 yards. That's 5.3 yards per carry. That's pretty productive. I mean, that's basically your starting running back at quarterback right there. And then he tosses for another 120 something, I think, and a score. Take away those 2 interceptions in the first half. That's in this game versus Army. That is what's going to be key. You can't have 3 and outs. You can't have interceptions. If you have 3 and outs and you turn the ball over versus Army, they will defeat you because they will just hold the ball. I mean, they're not. The defense will have to step up and stop them. It's not like basketball where you can actually hold the ball, but it's easier said than done stopping that triple option. So in this one, against Michigan State in that first half, FAU kind of struggled a little bit to get going early in the first quarter, second quarter. They got going downfield a little bit. That Cam took that hit. That hit was just brutal, and I thought he had a concussion because he comes back in, he just didn't look right, and then he tossed that interception. And so Want to find that mojo that they had in that second half, kind of earlier in the first half. They had that connection going with Omari Hayes in the second half. He caught all of his targets on the day for 75 yards. Fancher was able to connect with him over the middle, and in the screen game, which I think is huge because he's able to both stretch the field and make his own moves out of the slot, which is two big parts of this FAU offense. So in this one against Army, I want to find a way to get Omari Hayes the ball earlier. How they do that, I don't know. The tackles stepping up in this one is going to be critical. Malcolm and Daughtry didn't have the best days on the outside, but they didn't have the worst days either. But they're considering also they were facing off against a Michigan State defensive line that's really one of the top. I wouldn't say top in the Big Ten.
A very good front seven.
Yeah, mid level in the Big Ten, but because there's a lot of good front sevens in the Big Ten, and so going into next week, want to see them take a step up versus an Army edge rushing group that's no knock on Army, but they're going to be a little less talented than that Michigan State room. That's just how it is, and so they met, but Army can come out with that dog mentality and have some really good edge rushers as well. So gotta keep that head on a swivel and have a good week. And then defensively versus Army, you talk about what you need to do in that game versus Michigan State. They did everything possible that they needed to do. They made plays on the outside. They contributed in the pass rushing game.
Wasn't there five
multiple players contributed in the pass rushing game, which I think last year was a major problem, is that they didn't get a lot of production especially after Marlon got hurt. Now we see Marlon playing a little bit of a smaller role to start, and you see a guy, Chisholm Ifanyi, have a huge day. I mean, he won 42 per PFF, who Tom Herman we had, if you watch press conference today, Tom Herman thought I was getting my information from the coaches. I was like, nah, PFF. But PFF has it listed as 42.9%. As Chisholm winning his pass rush rates in true passing sets. So that's pretty successful. I believe Micah Parsons in the NFL last year was in the low 40s as well, and he led the league. Just for some comparison there, obviously, love Chiz, not comparing him to Micah Parsons yet, but just some numbers there on that one. It was good to see a young guy new to FAU in terms of young. I believe he's a redshirt junior. But make that contribution off the edge in the first game. Linebackers were solid as well. Jared Gerald's missed that one tackle to allow that K-Ron Lynch Adams big touchdown run. But that's what Tom Herman talks about. You missed that one play. It results in a touchdown. So, overall pretty solid from the linebackers. Want to clean up the little things. And DBs, as we mentioned in that opening play. I mean, they made that Kazir Bugs Brown made that huge interception. Offense should have been able to capitalize. And that is what we want to see in this Army matchup, is some capitalization. Want to see more mojo. Overall at MSU, defense was solid and at all levels. And in this Army game, you're going to need the replication of that. And you're also going to need all the little things, the reading of the keys, the watching the football, knowing who's getting the handoff, who's getting that pitch is going to be huge. And I think FAU kind of has an advantage in terms of, they've got some veteran DBs now. It's no longer a young group back there. You got Phil Dunham and Jaden Williams at safety. You've got Bugs Brown and Day Hill at corner. And I feel like all of those guys being able to contribute in the run game is huge. And I mean, they're not going to be as busy in the pass department. I think that's well and known, but they all contribute in the run game, and having them come down and contribute with that front seven, I think, is really going to be huge for FAU in this one. Christian, going back to Michigan State really quickly, what, in your opinion, is most needed offensively to change from game one? Is it the run game not working? Is it Cam running the ball? Is it the pass game? What is it to you?
For me, because, all right, I only watched about the final quarter and a half because I was working. So I haven't had a time to really sit down and break down film because I've been working my ass off, guys. Anyway, from what I've seen, our biggest, and honestly reading the oh woe is me texts from a lot of different people about the game. My biggest concern is and need is, like I said earlier, being able to open up the pass game a little more, and receivers getting separation wasn't an issue. It wasn't receivers dropping balls. It just seemed like everything was a little out of sync. But guess what? When you have 9 to 10 dudes who didn't even know who the other one was last year on the field at the same time, the connection is going to be a little off, because end of the day, you could run as many scrimmages as you want. You could run as many game time situations as you want, as many practices and summer workouts as you want. It gets real when somebody hits you.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody not wearing your jersey lays you out on the first snap of the game, and it's, oh, this is for real now. You've got 45, 50,000 people wanting to see you get blown out. Like, as many simulations as you want to make, you can't prepare for that. You can be mentally prepared, but the old saying of things get real, and I'm substituting a different word, things get real the second you get punched in the mouth, and that's what happened. And so I think of being able to open up the pass game a little more, now we're punching them in the mouth. And then that opens, like I said, the options for having a mobile quarterback. Let Cam play around a little. Let him get active in the run game. CJ, Zoo, Germani, get them active. Get them more touches, because what did you say? CJ and Zoo had a combined 17, 18 carries, right?
Yeah, and not much production.
I think that's a big avenue. If it's not getting going in the run game, dump off, dump off, dump off, check downs, get them involved. I'm a Miami guy. I love what the Dolphins do of getting their playmakers the ball by any means necessary. I love that they get their playmakers up to speed, because guess what? I would rather have a guy like a Milan Tucker, who didn't really have a large role in the game. Get him up to speed. He's probably the fastest dude on your offense, if not a top 2 fastest dude. Get him up to speed pre-snap while there's a linebacker just standing still, barely moving. I'll take the dude who's already running full speed on a go ball over a DB or a linebacker every single time. So give me the opportunities to really watch the offense gel a little bit better, because end of the day, it's week 1. And like I said, these guys didn't know that the other one existed 6 months ago. Do not hit the panic button yet. All hope is not lost. We lost a game closely to an opponent that nobody thought we were beating. The FAU analysts didn't think FAU was going in to East Lansing and breaking off a win.
Who is the FAU analysts? I'm curious. Who are these FAU analysts?
I
wanna
know
meet
the
them.
ins and outs of this team. I've been a
I want to meet these analysts.
dude. Honestly, the FAU analysts are on this call right now. But no, like, if you really broke down the schedule going into the season, nobody had us winning at Michigan State. Okay, we're coming into Army 0-1. Why was the entire fan base freaking out in the moment? In the moment, if they freaked out. But then when you really sit back, 2020 vision, hindsight is give some hindsight. Why was I freaking out? We literally got them down to the final minute. Defense shutout. 4 takeaways, right? 4 or 5? 4.
No. 2 fumbles and the interception. And
2 interceptions, so 4.
Bugs
Bugs.
and Phil.
Yeah.
And then
2 fumbles.
I think it was 2. It might have just been 1. I'll look.
3.
Anyway.
Multiple takeaways. There we go. Problem solved. Multiple takeaways. Second half shutout. Defense is looking good. Defense looks really good. Now, defense, y'all competed and y'all shut out a Power 4 opponent. I don't care if that Power 4 opponent is Georgia or if they are, I don't know who's the worst. I don't care if they're Georgia or Vanderbilt or anybody in between. Y'all hung in and shut out a team who arguably gets better talent coming into their program. No knock on the boys, but if we look at the recruiting cycles, you see what I mean. So being able to shut those guys out, I think, is a very good start. And now we only have ways to build up offensively. I'm not hitting the panic button. I'm not freaking out. The end is not near. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in the next couple days.
Yeah, I mean, talent. I don't really think it was the thing here. No.
I agree.
Yeah, that was something early in the week where people were concerned about the talent difference. No, FAU's got a very talented team. What I saw during the summer was confirmed that defense is really, really solid, but also was confirmed was I feel like at the beginning of the game there was no target in the receiving game. It was kind of just go out there, run the routes. We'll see who gets the ball. I think Omari Hayes is that guy now, and I think going into this game, want to see Omari get the ball early, and I want to see that run game find different ways to get going. Pitches, I feel like we didn't see too many pitches. That's not the biggest part of this offense, but just finding different ways to try to open up the run game for Campbell and Mobley. And it should be not much easier because Army's got that strong defensive line, like Dan mentioned, but it should be a little bit easier to run the ball. We'll just see how they are able to execute it. I'm looking for a stronger game overall from the tackles on the offensive line. If they play, Daughtry is talented. We saw that all summer. Same thing with Malcolm Lamar. We could see big game versus Army here. Get that run game going could really help this team. Push through this next couple of games, which is a huge stretch for FAU. Could really open up the season. I mean, they play FIU, Wagner, UConn, and Army. So Army is the most difficult game in that stretch there, especially after we saw what we saw out of UConn and their game versus Maryland. They're not. Nick Evers is not what we thought, and so really winnable stretch for FAU right here. Got to start with Army. Got to start coming out hot offensively and keep up that defensive performance and really just play a smooth, sound game. No 3 and outs. Hold that ball. But we'll talk more about the matchup versus Army on Thursday on Inside the Burrow. I'll be on there with Mike Birdman making a special appearance, maybe Drew. I was trying to see if I had the notes behind me. I don't know if Drew will be joining us on there, but more on that matchup on Inside the Burrow just after 9:30 here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking everything Florida, the big three outside of FAU, because FAU's top of the big three. It's like we're like top of the pyramid, then you got the rest. But UF got abysmally destroyed by the Canes. FSU looks like trash. And so, yeah, more after this. back to the Lastella Report here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Robbie Lastella, Christian Prosha, just after 9:30 here. Christian, it was a good weekend for you, my guy. How about those Canes? Listen. I will say I
Glad you
was
talked.
thinking UF would have played a better football game. I will also say I was equally as adamant that Billy Napier was not a good football coach and that they could equally come out and play a horrible football game. I think Cam Ward is a really talented quarterback. I think some of those throws he made on the run were insane. I mean, that one, and I think it was like the second quarter where he rolled out to the left and the dude ended up in the bush. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
that was that was I mean, when the guy ended up in the bush, I was like, all right, you know what, I think UF may be cooked, and they are cooked. Billy Napier, rumored today by a Jaguars beat reporter I follow, so I don't know how he got the scoop. Don't know if that scoop is right. I just saw it on social media, like all these other Twitter rumors, and apparently Billy Napier's seat is getting real warm. I cannot imagine that they fire him before week 2, but that's what Brett James believes will happen, which I saw on I don't know how he would have gotten that scoop, but he's a pretty credible guy in the Magic and Jaguars realm. It's that neck of the woods. So, I don't necessarily know if there's any credibility behind that, but we'll see. I'm not against the move because I saw the tweet, and normally I would think it's just like a shit post, whatever. No, I think it'd be the right move to let Billy Napier go. Christian, I mean, is you? We'll get to UM in a second. We'll talk about. We'll give UM their own time to talk about UM. We're talking about UF right now. What was wrong with UF in that game? I mean, that was really like bad. They just had nothing going.
Am I allowed to say everything?
I mean, we don't curse. I mean, I don't know what you mean by everything. We don't curse. We have some type of ratings on here. I don't know what those
Not
are.
like say everything, but my answer is everything was wrong with UF.
Oh yeah. I mean,
God, this is why you got deferred from UF. I'm kidding. I love you.
Hey man, roll Owls. I got a degree now.
Max, unlike me. But just remember, there are people that stay in college for 7 years. They're called doctors and Christian Prosha. Never forget it, guys. In all seriousness, coaching, big issue. Sunbelt Billy should not have even been able to coach this game. Billy Napier should have been gone already. I don't know why y'all got rid of Dan Mullen. That will still be the dumbest thing to me is getting rid of Dan Mullen. Quarterback wise, Graham Mertz is not it. And then there are 9 Miami tight ends that spend 9 years in college. Very good, Dan. Very good. But like I said, Graham Mertz is not it. There's nothing really to it outside of he's Jimmy G, except he doesn't have anybody to throw to, unlike Jimmy G. Like I don't see what the hype was about Graham Mertz going into this year, and that's the thing is all offseason, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit on the Canes tangent. All offseason, I was hearing about how Graham Mertz has really improved and developed as a passer. DJ Ulongale is going to come in and lead FSU to relevance and or to continue FSU's dynasty in the ACC. They didn't make the playoff. And then got blown out by Georgia. So those, and then it's Cam Ward is gonna fail at Miami. Like, for everybody kept making excuses and comments about why Miami wasn't going to be good. What about Graham Mertz and what about DJ you need to get on LinkedIn made them look so much better than Cam Ward? And that's a Cam Ward that I was high on and I honestly thought was the third best quarterback if he would have stayed in this year's draft class. If he would have hired an agent and went in this draft, realistically, I would have taken Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels over him. that's really about it. I think he was better than Drake May. I think he was better than Penix. I definitely think he's better than Bo Nix. And then everybody,
JJ,
what? And then,
JJ,
yes, he can actually throw the ball.
yeah.
But, like, what about Cam Ward is not desirable that DJ Ulongale has, where that dude has regressed every season? So I think that UF was way too overhyped for a squad that honestly lost a lot and then really didn't gain anything, plus having to walk through the depths of hell for their schedule this year. Because guess what? No, or guess what, Gators fans? The sun isn't getting any. The sun ain't shining. Y'all got nothing to smile about. Because the last, and you might be thinking, Samford, that's an easy win. The last time UF played Samford, which was only a couple years ago, that game went down to the wire.
Mm-hmm.
And their other chalk up, quote unquote, win is UCF. And I like UCF over them. And everybody knows I am not high on KJ Jefferson. I do not think KJ Jefferson is a good quarterback. I didn't think it when he was at Arkansas. But so I think Florida, y'all are in for a toughie this year. My thoughts, prayers, and condolences go out to you guys now that we just put B2A on you guys.
Yeah, I don't think UF really has. What do they have going for them? The schedule is ridiculous.
They got baseball.
They have Wilson the third at receiver. That's it.
I was about to say, Eugene Wilson is the only bright spot on this team. So it gets back to my point that I just made of baseball season's rolling around soon, guys. Like, hope y'all can find comfort in that because honestly, I don't think your basketball team is going to be that good either. I hope. Have fun with Elijah Martin.
Montrell Johnson and Eugene Wilson. That's all they've got. They've got a horrible head coach. They've got a grandpa at quarterback that's taking away valuable. They're just going to redshirt DJ, which is fine.
And they
but yeah. But I just think Graham. He was accurate last year, but I feel like a lot of that accuracy comes from the short game. UF runs a lot of that short game. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to kind of turn it around. I feel like Billy Napier will be fired by week 6, and Dan Mullen will be laughing hysterically somewhere because Dan Mullen is really a really good football coach in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I guess the UF fans disagree. I've seen a lot that says they don't like him either. But hey, all I know is he was able to beat some really good teams in his time at Florida. Wasn't able to put it all together at times. Had some bad losses. But that season he got fired, had some bad losses, but had some big wins and almost beat Georgia that year too that he got fired. So give Dan his flowers. But kind of moving on to UM Christian. Cam Ward is
the Heisman champion, Heisman Trophy winner 2025, Cam Ward. That's how we address him. Continue.
But, I feel like a lot of those other pieces, we saw Xavier Restrepo shine.
George shine.
Yeah, it was really everyone. The defense looked solid. I feel like UM could have put up 50 in that one if they wanted to. But we saw Boston College take down FSU last night. So watch out for those Boston College.
Actually, we do play them. We do play them later in the season. We do play them.
Yeah, that's that game where old Mario's gonna get caught slipping. He's gonna do some goofy things, and then
listen. I've got Miami going 10-2, 11-1 on paper. Going into the season, I said loss at Louisville, possible loss Florida State. What I've seen out of Florida State, that game is not going to be competition anymore. So honestly, a Georgia Tech or a Boston College, I could realistically see giving, and maybe a VT. I think actually didn't VT just
they lost? They looked bad week 1.
Yeah, that's true, but I think VT is a team on paper that has a very good roster. So maybe getting them to execute a little better. But back to the Canes, like you said, offense was beautiful. Beautiful. Like I said, Xavier Restrepo is going to lead the country in targets. I said it the other day, got called a quote-unquote psycho Canes fan. I'm right. So Xavier Restrepo and Jacoby George is honestly the best 1-2 duo in the ACC and a top 5 in the SEC, or I mean, in college football in general. I think that Amika from Ohio State and Jeremiah Smith as a barely 18-year-old is the best wide receiver duo in college football, but that's besides the point. Jeremiah Smith, literally everything that one dude was saying about Jeremiah Smith on TikTok of, yeah, he's definitely not from this country and he forged his papers. He's secretly 25 years old. Those were all comments I was making while watching him play in high school. Like, he's pretty accurate on that. But anyway, Miami's receiver core, awesome. Damian Martinez is the best running back in the ACC. Said it the other day. He's better than the kid from UNC. But pick your poison. I've got my guy Damian Martinez. Elijah Arroyo is going to be the focal point, is going to be the wild card of this offense. Mario loves this dude. Tight ends are a dime a dozen in college football. I said it the other day because I literally remember saying, unless you go to Iowa. So being able to have a really good tight end in this college landscape is going to be huge for Miami because that kid can block, he can pass pro, and he can run pro, and he's a really good catcher. So I'm really high on Miami's offense. I think that they can honestly put up that 40 points every Saturday night. Defensively, I've got one question, and it's directed towards one Graham Mertz. You know who Kiko Mauigoa is yet? You know who he is yet? Because he put your ass on the ground, my friend. Kiko Mauigoa is the best linebacker in the ACC. He is a dog. I love Miami's front seven, being able to have him and then having Ruben Bain on the.
He got hurt.
Ruben Bain is hurt. He is taking this week off for the Bethune game. Mario has already said that. Do they play Bethune or FAMU? I'm trying to remember. They play in HBCU. For this week's game, Ruben Bain will not be playing. But that kid is a dog, and he's going to be just fine. So I think Miami honestly has the most complete squad in the ACC as far as talent on both sides of the ball and on special teams, special plays, special moments, and being able to execute. As of right now, Miami is the clear-cut favorite for the ACC title.
I feel like they do have a bottom tier coach in the ACC though.
Well, that remains to be proven right or wrong because honestly, we've seen both sides of Mario. And this is a put up, shut up year for this coaching staff because everybody knows year 3 is your moneymaker. If you suck year 3, get ready to just make your LinkedIn profile now. And that brings me back to my comment that I was going to make earlier is when Sunbelt Billy gets fired very early on in the season, you said week 6, I said week 4. Preseason, I said he was getting fired week 4, probably right as non-con ends. But when Sunbelt Billy inevitably gets the axe, who takes on the reins of the show of Florida football? Does a popular one is Lane Kiffin. Why would Lane Kiffin go to Florida? He could stay at Ole Miss and be a god.
Because he's a psychopath. That's why. I mean, in a good way. Like, you know, he's a sicko. So, you know, he wants to do crazy things, and you know, going to coach at UF is like a you know, the sicko move. You know, you're certifiably insane if you take that job. But Lane would definitely be up for the task.
The Lane train is staying in Oxford. So now another one that's been spitballed is, does Urban Drunken Lapdance Meyer come back? That one's been floating around over the past couple days. And then another one that I'm personally a favorite of, do they take Alex Golesh from USF? Yes, I am totally clickbaiting right now and trying to get all the little Twitter gremlins from the USF fan base telling me I'm an idiot. So I'm going to throw Alex Golesh's hat in the ring. Golesh is a good coach. His team is a solid team. There, I said it. Horns down still. Guess what? Y'all still haven't beaten anybody. They beat 4 sub 500 AAC teams, an FBS team, or an FCS team, and an HBCU. And then in their bowl win, they beat a team that didn't have a quarterback. Show me something. Show me something. I'm not flattered. I'm not impressed. You are still mid. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not bought in on USF just yet. I want to see how they do versus Alabama. I feel like the world's gonna go crazy. But I don't see them keeping it within 3 scores.
I agree. I was low on Bama going into this year. In my opinion, if there was ever a year to beat Alabama, for somebody to come in out of nowhere, not talking SEC, I'm talking out of their non-con schedule or a low-tier SEC. If there was any year to beat Bama, honestly, I think it's this year. Given the past 20 years of my lifetime of having to watch Nick Saban rule college football with an iron fist, and really the only things you're getting is an occasional Georgia loss, an LSU, or we're getting freaky with a Tennessee or Ole Miss loss. I'm actually really high on Bama. They proved that they still got it. They're still Alabama.
Yeah, they've got that one guy, that freshman receiver Ryan Williams,
that kid is 17 years old. He should be sitting in pre-calc right now.
Mm-hmm.
That kid is good.
Yeah, he's going to be good. Kalen DeBoer, he's, I knew he was a good coach. I didn't know if he was ready to coach Alabama. I think he's ready to coach. But, that was just Western Kentucky. They play USF this week. I want to see them in SEC play. I don't want to see them beat the heck out of Western Kentucky and South Florida. That's just
their true tests are these 3 teams. I don't know if they have them on the schedule.
Texas, I think they play Texas.
Oh, I wasn't even going to say Texas.
It's a test. Texas is one of the better teams.
It's a test. But I'm not talking about the SEC dogs going into the year like the Texases or the Georgias. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri. Where do you fall in the second tier of SEC teams? SEC teams like Tennessee and Ole Miss came out swinging this week. I think the SEC is honestly a 5 to 6 bid playoff league. Getting a Georgia, an Alabama, a Texas, a Tennessee, an Ole Miss, and maybe a Missouri in those top 11 teams because
in Missouri, I'm not high. I think Eli Drinkwater is a special coach. I'm not too sure if he's the fit at an SEC school, but he's got the goofy personality for it. But it's just
But we have 5 minutes left on this show, and I will be mad if we don't touch on this.
How about those
Seminoles? How about
that was? I'm very surprised. The thing for me is they're letting DJU, or they're having DJU go out there and throw these questionable throws. They throw behind the line, these duck passes. At one point yesterday, he was 3 of 10 for 30 yards. And he got going a little bit, but then the throws in the end zone. Oh man, that one was real bad. The one where it was the corner, I was just ugh.
He had 3 missed goal line fades in a row. It was so funny, dude. I was watching the game with my dad, and we were dying laughing. And then when they started chanting, "We want Brock," midway through the third quarter, I was losing it. That was the greatest.
That was bad. That was bad.
FSU is bad. But here's the thing that I just realized. And honestly, I do think that this is a big disadvantage for FSU. Their coordinators and their head coach have no NFL coaching experience.
I saw the TikTok about that.
Yeah, I was driving, watching, listening to it. Don't TikTok and drive, kids. listen to your TikToks instead. But
I mean, at the same time, though, I
it's
mean,
not an
the
excuse.
FSU's coaches, that TikTok for people who don't know niche TikTok references, some TikToker out there, I didn't
From
pay
Barstool.
attention to the name. He was talking about he was talking about how Bill O'Brien and his coaching staff knew how to use the in communication helmet system thingy, and that FSU's coaches don't have any NFL experience. But that's, I mean, FSU's I feel like they're smart. They're not dumb. I'm sure they can figure it out. And also, I mean, what did they say? What did they not use the helmet communication system? Like, did they, like, where was the point made? Like, I mean, just
They
because
don't have prior experience doesn't mean that they're like, yeah, screw it. Like, so I agree, but at the same time, like, I do think having that experience of where you're able to kind of like be Jiminy Cricket, talk in your guy's ear really quick. Hey, look at this, because he was like went talking defensively. He was right. Boston College executed on the exact same play within a 5-minute span. That wheel route was dangerous. Honestly, Boston College's entire game plan was run, and that's going to be everybody's game plan going into FSU until you show otherwise. That front seven is depleted. They don't got Jared Verse. They don't got Braden Fisk anymore. Patrick Payton is a dog. I love watching Patrick Payton play, but their linebacker core is atrocious. Like, it is bad.
I feel like I feel like they just brought in a bunch of Alabama transfers this offseason and called it a day. I don't really think that I don't think they addressed the quarterback position enough. I mean, yes, they bring in DJU, but they saw Brock Glenn in that the bowl game, and he didn't look good.
No.
So why not bring in two quarterbacks? Like, bring in somebody that at least can be competitive with DJ.
Well, they brought in freshman Luke Cromahook, who I am very high on. I think that kid is really good. Honestly,
Where did he go to high school?
I don't remember. He was an up north kid, like north Florida kid. But he's been a kid who I've had eyes on for. He's been a player that I have been scouting for years. Yep. Anyway, we almost got this show canceled.
Oh, man.
Make sure you tune in to New Era Prep Nightly every Monday and Wednesday night, guys. But he's been a guy that I've been scouting for a little bit because I thought he was going to commit to Miami. Unfortunately, he didn't. Unfortunately, he is up in Tallatrashy. But I think that he is a very good quarterback. I want to see him get some run this year. Worst comes to worst, you got a true freshman tight end who was the best quarterback in South Florida top 3 quarterback in South Florida last year, sitting as your tight end, Luke Douglas. Put him in the game because guess what? That kid's a gamer.
I don't think that'll happen.
I'm taking Luke Douglas over DJU. I will scream.
I don't think they're moving tight ends to quarterbacks just yet. But it might get there if they keep going down a bad hill. They might get to the point where, you know what, just put the tight end at quarterback. Who cares? We'll see what happens with old Florida State. Mike Norvell, Deion Sanders could be coaching in Tallahassee next year, and Lane Kiffin could be coaching in Gainesville. Wouldn't that be a crazy world? But hey, just after 10 here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, going to call it a night. If you missed the first half, our insider from Army, Dan Calvelli, talks everything Army related to FAU's Week 2 matchup. And me and Christian talked FAU Michigan State. So if you missed that, make sure to hit that rewind button. We talked everything you need to know about the Owls. I will be back on Thursday with Inside the Borough. Christian will be back with his show tomorrow, New Era Prep, nightly previewing this weekend's slate of high school football here in South Florida. Catch us tomorrow and on Thursday on our various networks on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Until then, for Christian, I'm Robbie. Thank you for tuning in to the Lastella Report on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you on Thursday.